that's what this is all about. We've been receiving a lot of interesting emails that I'm going to share a little bit more about as everyone starts to gather live. For now, I'm just asking about, like, is this a religious journey? Are you Catholic? And I just want to assure everyone that's joining us for the first time that this is a spiritual journey about your own higher self and your own sovereign divinity, and how this beautiful ascended master, Mother Mary, is here to guide you in the full body remembrance of who you really are through the light of your own divinity. So we're going to share a little bit more about that later in the call. And I'm just so happy to be welcoming so many beautiful earth angels here live. Anybody want to share how you've been integrating? Jennifer's very the feisty, fiery Kaia is always so inspiring. Thank you, Jennifer. That's really sweet of you. I'm grateful that that fire is appreciated, because there are days where it just pours through me, and I can't stop it, because it's not me. It's my higher self. It's Sophia. It's the masters that are just sending that unconditional love through me to all of us. Because that's just how much they love us. Like, anyone knows that when you are in a relationship with anyone that you deeply care about, if it's an authentic and real loving relationship, there's going to be moments of tough love and fire that really burns through what no longer is serving that relationship. And the fire that comes through from my higher self and the high council, it's all about burning through all of the unworthiness, all of the ways that we're holding ourselves back. So I really want to thank you for your loving support and recognition of that channeled transmission that comes through me. Seems like more and more these days, but we are definitely living in pivotal times. And, it's just, I pray that the permission that I'm giving myself is modeling for you, that it's safe for you to allow the different aspects of your divinity to come through as needed in your daily life and in your own ministry. So beautiful to see everybody coming on today. Welcome, Amanda. Thank you, Karen. It's sweet of you to say that. And I just want to, just as we're, welcoming everybody on today, I just want to see if anybody has any questions about anything that's come up. If there's anything that's popping up in your mind right now, like, oh, I've been wondering about this, or I've been wondering about that one thing that you said 2 days ago, feel free to put it in the comment feed. And if we don't get to answering it now, we'll definitely answer it at some point for you, whether it's through another YouTube live or tomorrow's YouTube live. I'm just really curious about your feedback, about questions that are coming up. What's Mother Mary's Star Nation is coming through from Denise. That's a really great question. Interestingly enough, I shared a little bit about this for the first time on a recent interview that I did for the New Earth Retreat. And what Jesus and Mother Mary showed me, actually, it was only within this past year, she showed me a trinity of star nations that work together for downloading Christ consciousness here on the planet. And there is the golden ray whole self transmission that comes from Andromeda. Then there's the divine feminine Christ transmission from the Pleiades. And there's the divine masculine Christ transmission from Sirius. And so what happens is this consciousness goes through multiple stargates, not starting in Andromeda, but there's stargates that we are connected to as a species that, from centuries of incarnating on this planet, it's like we like to receive our conscious upgrades, how we evolve as a species spiritually. We become attuned to certain star nations and the way that those energies are being downloaded to the earth. We like to work with allies across centuries of time. And so that's why there was such a deep connection to Sirius in Egypt. And it's why there's so many indigenous cultures that are connected to the Pleiades. I didn't really understand the depth of what was coming in from Andromeda until I was channeling a lot for clients, and And this Andromeda energy just kept coming up again and again in my channeling work. So eventually when I had the time, I checked in with Mother Mary about it, and it created this trinity of Star Nation support. And so, wonderful question. That's about as much as I'm going to go into that, because there's always so much to go into. But thanks for the question. Let's see. Are there any other questions? You're welcome. How do we know if a relationship is really toxic and codependent, or if it's just a soul trying to show us a lesson? From Berlin. Okay, well, Mother Mary can definitely help mentor you in deciphering when a relationship is karmic and attempting to help you release what no longer serves you, or if it's a relationship that's up leveling you into a new evolutionary place for receiving love in your life. If you have unresolved trauma, and you may not even know about it, because we often think our trauma is all healed, right? Oh no, that's for the other people. I'm a healer or a light worker, so I don't have anything left to heal. It's just like, it's so prevalent in the New Age culture. And I say that, just teasing lightly, because we all have been there where we're like, oh no, I'm good with that. I'm healed. And that's why I'm creating Transforming Trauma into Soul Power this January. It's to talk about and identify the places where we're still not receiving the most out of life, because we can't identify those places of unconscious wounding that are causing us to attract toxic relationships, right? Or toxic circumstances, or ways that we compromise what we really want in life. And so that's the mentor journey that I'm starting this January. And so I'm happy to share a little bit from that mentor journey right here, right now, with this wonderful question. If you experienced some kind of trauma in the form of abandonment, or maybe you were never good enough for your parents or a sibling, perhaps you felt unworthy or lacking in some way, where you weren't able to receive what you needed in an earlier time in your life, what we create are neurological pathways that magnetize and recreate that wounding in future relationships. And it's important to understand that this is a very, actually, it would seem counterintuitive that the body and the heart and the mind would create a neurology that would want to magnetize to you similar traumatic situations that would be painful, that would break your heart again, over and over again, right? But it's actually perfect, because here's the thing. Okay, let's take an example. I see this with women all the time. Maybe they weren't traumatized by their father, but maybe their father was absent. Maybe they could never seem to get the attention of their father for more than 5 minutes because he was so busy with work, or maybe he was a narcissist, or maybe he was struggling with addiction, or maybe he just was simply emotionally shut down. I work with women all the time. And this was my inspiration for Transforming Trauma into Soul Power that's starting this January. It was like, I see women all the time that as adults, they are playing out the pain of that abandonment in so many of their adult relationships. They never received the tools or the counseling or the inner resources. They didn't know they could cultivate inner resources to be able to navigate a new way of relating with men and receiving, giving and receiving love from a healthy context, because that abandonment, that neglect with their father creates this neurological patterning that literally magnetizes to you men that are going to ignore you, abandon you, imitate and mimic everything that happened with your father. And it might not, the circumstances might look different, but underneath the surface, it's the same energy. And a lot of women get really, really frustrated, and then in that space, and they think, well, all men are bad. And no, There are so many beautiful men in our world. Some of them you're going to meet on this live chat. It's like there are very evolved, heart-centered, loving men in this world. And it's not about anybody outside of you. When this neurological patterning is created, missed patterning really in childhood, what it sets you up for is a magnetism. It's totally unconscious. It's a magnetism to those individuals that are that I call it a perfect intersecting wound. They perfectly intersect, their unresolved issues perfectly intersect with your unresolved issues. So although you're like, this is crazy, this guy reminds me so much of my dad, and how fill in the blank, he never showed up, he never said what he was going to do, he broke his promises. It's not about that guy. What's happening is you are being magnetized to whoever is recreating that memory in your childhood, so that you can finally feel the pain so deep that you are willing to go inside that wound and break up that pattern. It's just like you don't want to be held prisoner by it anymore, but instead people just keep serial dating or creating business relationships that keep breaking them in half because they're not willing to go inside the wound, to get the therapy, the support, to take the time in meditation, prayer, self-examination, maybe even receiving spiritual and emotional healing, somatic healing, like taking the time to go inside what really happened in your childhood, which then starts to break up that pattern, and it releases so many people in your future reality from being that character in your movie, right? Everyone is a character in your movie. You are the star of your own movie, and everyone in your movie is a character for you that is helping you magnetize to yourself what is going to accelerate your growth as quickly as possible. What's going to trigger